I didn't walk into my high school reunion to prove anything. I came because I needed to face a part of my life that I'd spent years trying to forget. I came because after building a company from nothing, after surviving heartbreak, poverty, and shame, I wanted to see if the past still had power over me. Apparently it did. The moment I stepped into the ballroom at the Hilton Hotel, I saw her. Jessica Holloway, perfect blonde waves, a wine glass in her hand, and the same smirk I remembered from senior year. The one that always came right before she said something cruel. "Oh wow," she said loudly, spotting me. "Look who made it. Maya Thompson. I didn't think you'd show up. Or could afford the ticket." People laughed. It was meant to be a joke. A harmless jab. But it landed like a slap. Like I was 17 again, wearing the same thrift store shoes 3 days a week, and pretending I wasn't hungry. I smiled anyway. I'd learned to do that a long time ago. You see, back in high school I was that girl. The one with secondhand clothes, and a mom who cleaned houses. The one who never brought lunch because we had no food. The one people whispered about. The one Jessica called Maya the Mooch, because once, just once, I asked if I could have a bite of her sandwich. She told everyone I was used to scraps. They laughed. Even the teachers didn't step in. And I promised myself, one day, they'll know my name for something else. I just didn't know how that would happen. After high school I disappeared. I worked 2 jobs, put myself through community college, then built an online business slowly, painfully, with every spare dollar I had. I failed, then failed better. And eventually, I didn't fail. By 30, I had a staff of 35 and clients in 5 countries. I wasn't a billionaire, but I had my own house, a garden I loved, and enough money to never worry about food again. And yet, walking into that ballroom, facing Jessica's smirk, I felt 17 all over again. Throughout the night, I kept catching pieces of conversation. Someone asked Jessica if she was still in real estate. She laughed. "Yeah, sort of. I mean, the market's trash, but I still make enough to look good." Someone else mentioned she was divorced. She shrugged. "My ex was boring. I deserve fireworks." Then she turned to me. "And what about you, Maya? Are you still chasing dreams?" I looked at her. Really looked. Her lipstick was perfect, but her eyes were tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from carrying too much shame for too long. I said softly, "Actually, I run a company now. It does all right." She blinked. Just once. Then she laughed again. "Well, look at you. I guess all those scraps finally taught you to hustle." The room laughed. And I stood there, heart pounding, remembering every lunch I didn't eat, every name she called me, and how hard I worked to unlearn the belief that I was less. I reached into my purse, pulled out an envelope I had folded 3 times. I walked over to Jessica, handed it to her, and said just loud enough, "This is for you. Not because you deserve it, but because I do." She frowned, confused, opening it. Inside was a check. For $10,000. The room gasped. Someone said, "Is this a joke?" I said, "No. It's real. I heard Jessica's having a rough time. I figured she might need a start." Jessica stared at the check like it might burn her fingers. "I don't need your money," she said. "I know," I said. "But I needed to give it. Because carrying bitterness for 10 years is heavier than giving away 10 grand. And then I walked away. Some people clapped. Some were stunned. But no one laughed. For the first time ever, the girl they once mocked, the one used to scraps, left the room in complete silence. Not because they were ashamed, but because, for the first time, they were humbled. I left the reunion barefoot in my heels, tears in my eyes. Not from pain, but from release. I didn't know what Jessica would do with the check. I didn't care if she changed or stumbled again. What mattered was that I chose kindness, even when it was hard. But I was wrong to think the story ended there. 3 days later, while I was working at my desk, I got a text from Amy, my only real friend from high school. "Maya, have you seen Facebook? Jessica posted about you. It's everywhere." I opened my phone, heart racing. Jessica's profile, now Jessica Holloway Harper, featured a long post with a blurry photo from the reunion. The caption read, "I laughed at her. In front of everyone. Years ago. And again just days ago. But when no one was watching, she handed me a check. Not to brag. Not for revenge. But so I could have a chance. Maya Thompson, the girl I once looked down on, is the strongest woman I know. The post had over 38,000 shares. Hundreds of comments. This made me cry in a coffee shop. Thank you, Maya, for reminding us of the power of grace. Jessica, thank you for owning your mistake. I was stunned. I never wanted attention. But now people were messaging me. A local women's magazine reached out for an interview. A week later, I was invited onto a morning talk show. I nearly said no. But then Amy messaged me again. Maya, you don't understand. Your story helped my little sister file for divorce after 6 years of abuse. She said if you could forgive and uplift someone, she could do the same for herself. I cried. And I said yes. On set, I wore a cream-colored dress. Nothing flashy. Just me. The host asked, "Why did you give the check to someone who hurt you?" I looked into the camera and said slowly, "Because I didn't want to become what she had been. I wanted to choose kindness, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." The audience applauded. Some wiped away tears. Jessica was there too, sitting quietly in the audience. After the show, she walked up and hugged me. No cameras, no microphones. She whispered, "Thank you for seeing me, when I couldn't even see myself." But it didn't stop there. 2 months later, I got an email from a woman named Carmen in another state. "Ms. Maya, I'm a middle school teacher in a low-income town. I read your story and started a club for bullied girls. I call it the Maya Club. 5 girls came to the first meeting. Last week, there were 42. I sat at my desk, hands trembling. That check had gone further than I ever imagined. Later that year, I did something my 17-year-old self never could have dreamed. I launched a scholarship fund for bullied girls, called the Stronger Girl Fund. At the launch event, I shared my story, about being mocked, and about the check that changed everything. The room was silent. And then Jessica walked up to the stage, not with a mocking smile but with glowing eyes. She handed me a small box. Inside was a pin engraved with the words, "Choose kindness anyway." I don't know where you are in life. Maybe you've been hurt. Maybe you've been the one hurting others. But I hope someday, you choose like I did. Choose kindness. Choose to lift others. Choose to change everything, with one small act. Because sometimes the smallest acts become stories the world can't forget. One autumn morning, I got an email with the subject line, "Invitation from West Haven High School." My old high school, the place I once prayed to escape. They invited me to speak at the freshman orientation. Honestly, I almost declined. Returning meant facing every ghost I left behind. But I thought of the Maya Club, of the girls growing up inside shame and silence. And I knew I had to go back, not to impress, but to be the voice I once needed to hear. When I walked through the gates of West Haven High for the first time in 15 years, my heart thudded like I was 16 again, hiding my torn shoes under my desk. The school looked smaller. The wall where someone once taped a cruel note, "Lunch lady's daughter eats scraps," was now covered in a mural that read, "You never know who will change the world. Be kind. They might be sitting next to you today." I stood still for a moment. Something warm wrapped around my chest. Even the school had learned to heal. The assembly was held in the auditorium. Over 300 students, teachers, and even some parents came. Principal Martinez introduced me. "I want you to meet a woman who turned pain into power, and kindness into impact. Please welcome Maya Thompson." I stepped onto the stage. No fancy lights. No glam. Just truth. I told them about being the poor girl. About crying alone at lunch. About Jessica. About the check. The room was silent. No fidgeting. No scrolling phones. I said, "I'm not here to tell a fairy tale. I'm here to tell you. No one gets to decide your worth but you. And if you've ever hurt someone, apologizing doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." After the talk, students lined up to meet me. Some asked for selfies. Some cried. But then one girl, wearing a gray hoodie, eyes cast down, stepped forward, handed me a folded note, and walked away. I opened it. In messy handwriting. "Miss, I was planning to disappear. But after hearing you, I want to try living a little longer." I cried. I never got her name. But I knew I had once been her. And if I could help one lost girl find her voice, Every scar I carried was worth it. A month later, Principal Martinez emailed me. Maya, after your visit, we launched a program called the Kindness Chain. Students do one kind act per week. A ninth grader named Lily said, I do it because Miss Maya made me believe I can be the good thing in someone's life. I printed that email, pinned it on my wall. I reread it on hard days. By spring, I expanded the Stronger Girl Fund. Not just scholarships now, but healing workshops in public schools. Jessica, now a single mom studying psychology, volunteered to lead the first session. After the workshop, she hugged me and said, Maya, I used to make you feel small. Now because of you, I help girls feel seen. No more victim and bully, just two women who chose to grow. I still keep a copy of the check. Not to flaunt, but to remind myself. One small act, done with a true heart, can change not just a person, but their whole world. If you're watching this, maybe you're holding your own version of the check. It might be forgiveness, a message, a chance. Think of the person who once laughed at you. Then ask yourself, who do you want to be? Kindness won't always be easy, but it's the only road that leads to freedom.